We're pushed by regulations to accelerate a transition to emission-free mobility, and I think we have picked up a pace which is fast. As you realize, we bring 5 full electric vehicles in 15 months in the US market. But at the same time, when it comes to internal combustion vehicles, we keep them in the market, but we also try to simplify the portfolio. I think we are living a kind of big challenge now in the automotive industry. We talk about the transformation, moving from traditional internal combustion engines to electric vehicles. And this is happening in a very high speed. At Mercedes, we have decided that by 2030, we're going to have only electric vehicles, if the market accepts and allows. What does that mean? By 2025, our whole product range will have an internal combustion engine, but also an electric vehicle equivalent, meaning we offer to our customers the choice.
Let's be clear here how important that is. Most car manufacturers have come out and said we're going to have some sort of electrification. Then they stepped it up and said we're going to go all electric by 2025. But they're smaller manufacturers, not as big as you. You guys, and correct me if I'm wrong here, we're going to have A all the way up through S as internal combustion, and then you're going to duplicate those efforts, A all the way up through S and EV. As far as I know, you're the only one doing that.
We have platforms which can take over an electric engine or a traditional internal combustion engine, and also can keep the flexibility in our factories to change on the same production line, have an ICE or an EV produced. So we keep the flexibility to see where the market pulls, at what speed, at what, let's say, rhythm, and we'll follow up.
You're an unusual challenge in that you're trying to completely take a customer base. Let's be honest, an S-Class is an older customer base. Even an E-Class would be an older customer base, and move them to a technology that I would argue is a younger base. What are some of the challenges you see as the manager of the business in the US? How do you do that?
The whole life is moving more to the digital side. And you're right, sometimes the technology is moving faster than what we as humans can accumulate. And you see it already with our vehicles today. It takes longer to deliver a vehicle to a customer. But on the other hand, I think with the electric vehicles, we have two things happening. On one hand is the technology which is in the vehicle, but it's also the use which is different. So an electric vehicle, you have to treat it differently. When you charge, when you plan travel, that you have your long travel, when you need to stop and charge your vehicle. We found out that independent of age, people are fascinated by technology and they want to indulge. So this is our challenge, to make sure that technology is easy to use, is convenient.
So true or false? Do you see any aspect of this transition of going from internal combustion to a portfolio or a duplicate portfolio of EVs as being pushed along by governments as opposed to your end customer, which would be the people buying the cars?
You are right. We're pushed by regulations to accelerate a transition to emission-free mobility, and I think we have picked up a pace which is fast. As you realize, we bring 5 full electric vehicles in 15 months in the US market. So we have a strong pace to that. But at the same time, when it comes to internal combustion vehicles, we keep them in the market, but we also try to simplify the portfolio. So we cannot add simply 5, 6, 7, 8, 10 in the next, in this decade, electric vehicles, and keep with a very extended combustion engine portfolio. So we try to simplify the range as much as possible to avoid duplications.
What would be some of the attributes that you would look at to eliminate one or the other?
To give an example, we announced a couple of months back that we'll discontinue the A sedan in the US market. So we'll continue the CLA and the GLA. They're both entry models, highly acceptable in the US market, sporty, and the SUV side, the GLA.
So you've had a lot of experience in working with governments around the world, Brazil, Korea, Greece. I'm sure that was a challenge unto itself. Maybe we'll do an episode just on how you dealt with the Greek government. And this guy actually worked in the bus business as well, but that's a story for another day. Do you see the timeline that some of the governments, whether it be Europe or the US, do you see it being pushed back?
This is hard to say whether it will be pushed back or now. But the problem is not only designing, producing, selling, delivering electric vehicles. At the same time, we need to create the infrastructure, right? So this has to accelerate also, have charging stations, have enough power in the grid, have clean energy to supply these charging stations. And this is, I think, where we need the support of the government to accelerate programs towards this direction. So vehicles is our responsibility, but we need, on the other hand, grids and infrastructure.
So two points on that. Point number one, does it fall under your purview or that of Mercedes Benz North America to create partnerships with infrastructure, or is that something from Mercedes AG?
No, it's a joint responsibility. We're in the market, as you know, have a very strong footprint here with production facilities, with research and development center and lots of locations around the country, plus our sales and marketing organization. So it's our responsibility.
I asked Christoph this same question. I'm not going to tell you his answer. Beyond the infrastructure, beyond the Electrify Americas or Tesla potentially opening up their network, do you see a problem with the utility companies like Southern California Edison, Con Edison, meeting the demand of all these flood of electric cars, whether they come from you or other manufacturers?
I have discussed in Atlanta with Georgia power company. The answer I had is they're ready, or they're getting ready for that. When the government is pushing with such a high, let's say, speed, the electrification of the fleets, there should be also the right infrastructure plan in terms of charging stations, but also in terms of the grid. Okay,
so further to that point, do you, as the CEO of Mercedes Benz North America, see it as part of your responsibility as a car company to go not just to the Georgia Powers of the world, but to the state of Georgia or the state of California and say, look, we're coming out with 5 or 9 cars in the next 6 years. What are you guys doing to ensure the grid meets this demand?
It's not my pure responsibility, but we have forums where we discuss about that. We have our manufacturer association, the Automotive Alliance for Innovation, where these discussions are taking place on a federal level, on a let's say syndicated approach, and there is a good alignment of the needs we have and see for the future. So it just needs coordinated actions. It needs speed that we have to take up, and it needs to really divide responsibilities. We have a job to do on our side, produce attractive vehicles, have vehicles which deliver performance, take away the fear, the inconvenience, so offer convenient solution for integrating the vehicle, connecting the vehicle to the mobile phone, to real life of the customer. For charging, for planning, traveling and whatever. But at the same time, we need government or state responsibility in developing networks.
I mean, I personally think this problem can be solved by 2 Greeks, but that's just one man's opinion. So this is the point of the episode. We'll return it around to the audience. And I think we pose 2 questions here. Number one, do they see a problem with the grid? Not the infrastructure, not the Electrify Americas or those guys, but the grids themselves supporting this upcoming demand. And then number 2, who do they think should be in that coordinated effort of, I guess, partnerships to ensure the grid doesn't go down? Let us know in the comments below or via our social media, MotoManTV all one word, MotoManTV all one word, Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. And with that, a little bit behind the scenes here, my friend Dimitri here, when we first met, we learned that we were both cigar aficionados. And so whenever we get together on these drives, so this was on SL, EQS, and now this, we get together, we break bread, and actually last night we had a Greek appetizer, and then we finished dinner with a cigar. So I always look forward to getting together with you.
Good to see you.
A pleasure.
George, thank you.
Bis später.